I'm joined now by Republican Congressman Mike Lawler of New York, a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Good to see you this morning, Congressman. I'm going to start with domestic affairs. I want to know your reaction to Elon Musk basically sending out orders to federal workers to list their accomplishments by Monday night or be fired, basically.
Look, I don't know how that's necessarily feasible. Obviously, a lot of federal employees are under a union contract. But there's no question, as the Department of Government Efficiency moves ahead, what they are seeking to do is ensure that every agency and department is effectively and efficiently doing their job. With a $7 trillion budget, there is no question that, our government has become bloated and in many respects inefficient. And so the task at hand, obviously, for Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency at the direction of President Trump is to find efficiencies and savings and make sure that our federal workforce is doing their jobs and doing it effectively. We have many people who do a phenomenal job on behalf of the American people. But I think ultimately in any government, when a new administration comes in, whether it's a state government, whether it's a local government, and I've served at every level of government, a new administration is always going to do a review and try to find efficiencies across the board. When you're staring down $36 trillion in debt and counting, obviously something has to give. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, a comprehensive forensic audit of every department and agency in the federal government.
Well, let's talk about one of those cuts, several of those cuts, and they came at the Pentagon. What is your reaction to the firing of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and 5 senior officers there, an unprecedented move, which looks like it's about DEI?
I don't know that it's about DEI. President Trump has one of the more diverse administrations we have seen, the first female chief of staff in the history of the United States, South Asian FBI director, a Latino Secretary of State, Latina Secretary of Labor.
But we've also heard Pete
numerous
Hegseth
women
certainly
serving
made it
in the
sound
administration. So, well, but bottom line here to me is the Department of Defense needed a complete overhaul. President Trump ran on that. He said he was going to provide the Department of Defense an overhaul. We are in the most precarious place since the lead up to World War II, Martha, in large part because of the disastrous foreign policy of the Biden administration, including decisions made at the highest levels of the Pentagon, starting with that disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan. So the idea that there wouldn't be changes at the Pentagon, that they would somehow be exempt from changes in leadership with a new administration and a new foreign policy, and a Defense Department that is focused on military readiness above all other considerations. I don't know why anybody's surprised by changes at the upper echelon of the Defense Department. They're not exempt from failure or the need for a change in direction.
Let's go to foreign affairs and let's go to Ukraine and let's go to policy there. You made it very clear that you believe Vladimir Putin is a dictator. You've heard what President Trump has said about Vladimir Zelenskyy, who is not a dictator, but he called him a dictator. Your reaction to what you've heard from the Trump administration about Ukraine and leaving Ukraine out of those initial talks with Russia?
Well, first, I will reiterate, Vladimir Putin is a vile dictator and thug, and he is clearly responsible for the war in Ukraine. Russia, China, and Iran have been working in a coordinated effort to undermine and destabilize the United States, Europe, Israel, and the free world. They are not our allies or our friends, and we must be clear-eyed about that. In addition, with respect to Ukraine, when Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons, we entered into a treaty. That is part of the reason that we are defending them and supporting them after this unprovoked invasion by Russia. And the consequences of failure here would be catastrophic for Europe, especially Eastern Europe, and former Soviet satellite states like Moldova, where my wife is actually from. So we have to be clear-eyed about the situation. Now, with that being said, let's also be honest about what has happened. President Trump's administration has been in touch with President Zelenskyy. President Zelenskyy met with the Vice President, the Secretary of State, Defense, and Treasury, as well as the Special Envoy, all within the last week. He also spoke to President Trump directly. The Russians have not had direct conversations with the United States since the invasion because Joe Biden refused to speak with Vladimir Putin. It is hard to enter into a negotiated settlement. Respectfully, let me finish the point. It is hard to enter into a negotiated settlement without engaging both sides. A final deal absolutely requires both sides to be at the table. But the idea that you wouldn't sit down with the Russians to at least have an initial conversation, obviously that it would be problematic. You have to be able to engage both sides.
Just very quickly, if you will, we have only a few seconds. Are you disturbed at all by the rhetoric coming from the Trump administration about Zelenskyy?
I did not agree with the president's rhetoric about Vladimir Zelenskyy. What I would say is this. It does not behoove either side to have this public back and forth. I think President Zelenskyy needs to work with the administration, especially with respect to economic cooperation. The United States has invested hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine. And when this war is finally over, Ukraine is going to need significant investment to rebuild. President Trump is the president of the United States. Vladimir Zelenskyy needs President Trump in order to end this war. So it does not behoove this public back and forth. I have been very clear in my support for Ukraine, but this kind of, back and forth saying that the president is falling for Russian disinformation does not help his cause for sure.
Okay, thanks very much for joining us this morning, Congressman. Appreciate it.